Got something you want to share to the world? We got you, fam! We are looking for awesome people like you who want to share content that deserve a spotlight on our site. Whether it's a list of everything you love about catos and doggos, pop culture related artworks, or even your own random photos, memes, and funny videos, we'd be happy to see it and share it to the world. Join our award-winning team and be part of our Inkpop creator community.
Hey, it's me, Guyito. Want to become a writer, artist, or photographer when you grow up? Test your creative skills with us. We're looking for kids aged 7 to 12 years old with unpublished work like articles, short stories, poems, essays, artworks, videos, and others. Join our award-winning team and be a part of our Kinderpop contributors and get your awesome work published for the entire world to see. Send in your work to pop@inquirer.net or visit facebook.com/inkpop to know more. Now let's show them how kids get it done.
kaso ng COVID-19 para sa 1,074 cases. 200
releases its COVID-19 update for July 12. Total cases here in the country are now at 56,259.
Please stand by as we are about to start the National Mechanical Engineering Students Convergence. This event is brought to you by Philippine Society of Mechanical Engineers, University of the Philippines Student Unit, Incorporated.
Our community partners,
Sorry, my internet. Okay. JPSME Ateneo de Davao University, JPSME Central Mindanao University Chapter, JPSME Eastern Visayas State University Tacloban Chapter,
JPSME Polytechnic University of the Philippines Alfonso Campus, JPSME Polytechnic University of the Philippines Taguig Branch, JPSME Xavier University Chapter,
JPSME Mindanao State University Ligan's Institute of Technology, Unified JPSME Northern Mindanao, Mechanical Engineering Society University of Perpetual Help System Delta Calamba,
Mechanical Engineering Student Society Batangas State University, New Era University Association of Mechanical Engineering Students, PSME Southern Luzon State University, PSME Bicol State College of Applied Sciences and Technology Student Unit,
PSME Bicol University Student Unit, PSME Camarines Norte State College Student Unit, PSME Lyceum of the Philippines University Cavite Student Council,
Manuel S. Verga University Foundation Student Unit, PSME Mapua University Student Unit, PSME National University Student Unit, PSME University of Rizal System SU,
PSME Mariners Polytechnic Colleges Foundation Legazpi, PSME Technological Institute of the Philippines Manila Student Unit, PSME Technological Institute of the Philippines Quezon City Student Unit,
PSME Tarlac State University Student Unit, UP Society of Geodetic Engineers. Special thanks to UP Beta Epsilon Fraternity,
our media partners, Inquirer.net, Inkpop, SparkUp.
Some reminders for our audience. We have a charity drive entitled PSME Cares for Miss Dorothy Ancilio, who was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia and passed away last August 20. John Roffer Aguilos, on the other hand, lost his father and two siblings during a fire incident. A donation drive was initiated to help their families in these difficult times. Any amount would be a great help for their family to pay for hospital and funeral bills. Monetary donations may be sent to the following on your screen.
There will be a raffle winner picked every day of NMESC. To join the raffle, simply answer the evaluation forms to be sent out by the end of the day for a chance to win 200 pesos cash.
And to those who wish to get their e-certificates, remember to answer the evaluation form at the end of the talk for your details.
If you have questions for the speakers, comment on the live stream with your full name, /your school, /your question, and it will be carried over to the speaker by our moderators.
Disclaimer, the views and opinions of the guests and speakers do not necessarily represent those of the organizers and partners of this program.
On with the show.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the fourth day of this event in celebration with the 14th PSME Month with the theme, Link, Connect the Nation, Assemble the Future. We hold the National Mechanical Engineering Students Convergence. For years, the NMESC has brought mechanical engineering students the opportunity to learn from professionals and experts in different fields of mechanical engineering. It has also presented students with the knowledge of an ME's life in the industry through company talks.
Yesterday's speaker was Dr. Christian Delia, who actually gave a very insightful talk about mechanical engineering in the Industry 4.0. He gave us the idea that mechanical engineering should be something that we would always study about, and that mechanical engineering before should always be understood And mechanical engineering now should always be innovated, and mechanical engineering in the future is something that all of us can build together.
All right, so thank you for the recap, Jamie. But before we head on to the career talk, we'll be announcing the winner from yesterday's NMESC Daily Raffle promo. And the lucky winner of the 200 peso cash is, are you guys ready? James Brian C. Colance. Congratulations, you may now claim your prize by coordinating with the show's organizer.
Up next isn't just one speaker, but a duo who will be taking us to the skies with their talk. Hailing from a drone company, PhilippineFlyingLabs, we have speakers who have extensively studied the land in many aspects. Engineer Joel Cruz has finished his bachelor's degree in civil engineering and a master's degree in urban planning both in the University of the Philippines, Diliman. Meanwhile, engineer Phoebe Cartilla took up geodetic engineering in the same school as well.
A licensed geodetic engineer and a member of the Geodetic Engineers of the Philippines, Phoebe currently works for SRDP Consulting Incorporated as a geodetic engineer/GIS specialist supervising ground and aerial survey projects.
Her core competencies are surveying and mapping, geodesy, remote sensing, hydrography, geographic information system or GIS, and global navigation satellite system or GNSS.
She has also worked on the UP Field LiDAR 1 project, which worked on hazard mapping of the Philippines using light detection and ranging or LiDAR. She worked on data acquisition in the field using LiDAR equipment on board Cessna.
Meanwhile, Joel has been working with SRDP Consulting Incorporated as a GIS specialist and project manager for over 2 decades.
His expertise on GIS led him to produce a comprehensive database on numerous places for further required analyses like land use mapping, disaster management works, integration of photographic data, and imagery acquisition. He was responsible for many projects such as drone and street view imagery acquisition in West Sumatra, Indonesia for the World Bank. Also, Davao City Infrastructure Development Plan and Capacity Building Project for NEDA and the City Government of Davao. Topographic survey for preparatory student study on the project for improvement of Honoyara International Airport in Solomon Islands for Gyros Corporation.
Adding to his work as a project manager are the additional roles he served in with his many projects. Point in his career include being a UAV and RPAS controller for the crafting of Combat Readiness Training Area Master Development Plan at Fort Magsaysay Military Reservation, a data processing expert for the Pavement Data Collection Survey in the Republic of Vietnam, and a CADD expert for urban planning and design for the West Bank of Saigon River.
For the audience, you may leave questions in the streams during the speaker's talk. Please include your full name and school before stating your question.
Now, without further ado, let us now welcome Engineer Joel Cruz and Engineer Phoebe Cartilla.
Yes, hello. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. My name is Phoebe Cartilla. I'm a genetic engineer. I've been working for SRDP and the Philippines Flying Labs using drones and other technology for mapping and GIS. I'm here with Engineer Joel Cruz, the President of SRDP Consulting and Technical Manager of the Philippines Flying Labs. Drones and their role in the development of the country. Let me introduce you quickly to the Philippines Flying Labs. The Philippines Flying Labs was established in 2018 as part of the Flying Labs network under We Robotics. We Robotics is an international organization which aims to promote the use of drones and technology to solve local problems. The goal of Flying Labs is to accelerate the positive impact of local aid, health, development, and environmental solutions locally. Remote Area Medical Philippines, or RAM-PH. RAM Philippines is a subsidiary of Remote Area Medical, which started working in 2013 to help the survivors of Typhoon Yolanda. Since then, the organization has conducted multiple medical missions in far-flung areas at the country's margins, providing free healthcare to people who would otherwise be forced to go without. RAM Philippines has closely worked with Philippines Flying Labs on joint missions, specifically in disaster-hit areas, with RAM PH conducting medical missions and PFL mapping damages brought by the disasters. SRDP Consulting Incorporated. SRDP is an engineering consulting company that specializes in geographic information systems, or GIS, and mapping. SRDP provides integrated mapping, GIS, and engineering services. The company has been operating for more than 20 years and has worked locally as well as internationally in countries such as Indonesia, Japan, Vietnam, Nepal, Pakistan, Guam, Tanzania, and such. SRDP Consulting is a pioneer company working with drones. It is the first certified commercial unmanned aerial vehicle operator in the Philippines by the Civil Aviation Authority of the Philippines, or CAA. SRDP is working with RAM Philippines and the Philippines Flying Labs to bring the vision of the Flying Labs network and We Robotics in the country. Now let's start getting to know more about drones. What are drones, or as we sometimes call it, UAV? Unmanned Aerial Vehicle, or UAV, means a powered unmanned aerial vehicle other than the model aircraft used for sport and recreation, which may be operated autonomously beyond line of sight of the controller, but in all cases would be subject to remote control by the controller. A UAV, commonly known as a drone, and also referred to by several other names, is an aircraft without a human pilot aboard. The flight of UAVs may be controlled either autonomously by onboard computers or by the remote control of a pilot on the ground or in another vehicle. Why are drones used? Drones are mainly used for their portability. For a relatively small size equipment, high quality photos and videos can be acquired and from varying distances and sizes of area. The drone you can see on the bottom left is a micro drone. As you can see, it fits a mouse pad. We usually use these as training drones, but they can take decent photos and videos as well. The drone in the middle is a fixed wing drone called an EB. The last one is a rotary type drone, a DJI Phantom. For this part, I'm going to hand you over to Sir Joel. Sir?
Thank you, Phoebe. Basically, there are three classifications of UAVs. First is fixed wing, and this is characterized by a fixed wing and normally propelled by a propeller, which is situated in the back. Some features of fixed wing drone would be that it would have longer flight durations and at higher speeds. It's suitable for larger areas and requires a runway for takeoff and landing. The second classification of drones, UAVs or drones, is rotary wing type of drones. These are suitable for close range inspections. It's suitable for smaller areas with limited, but its main advantage is that it doesn't require a lot of space, unlike the fixed wing drone, to take off. It's capable of vertical takeoff and landing. The third type is a compromise between the two, which these types of drones are called VTOLs, or vertical takeoff and landing. landing drones. It's suitable also for long range, but it's a little bit more mechanically complex compared to fixed wing. So fixed wing would have longer longer range, but if you don't have much space to take off, um, then a VTOL can be the solution for you. So it can take off vertically and land vertically. First, it takes off. After it takes off, it then switches to fixed wing mode, where so that it can cover larger areas. Next, please. UAV applications. Most common application of UAVs are for photography and videography. For example, videos, movies, blogs, etc. Second type is for security and control, air reconnaissance, policing and crowd monitoring, aerial traffic, and security watch. Another very important application of drones are for search and rescue, such as a maritime and mountain search and rescue, life raft deployment, and rescue point marking. Another common use of UAVs is for agriculture. It's used for precision mapping. It can be used to determine biomass, crop growth, and food quality. It also can be used for monitoring crops for harvest and optimization. It's also used a lot for mining applications. It's efficient inspections of mine. It can be efficient in inspecting mine walls and slopes, assessment of environmental impacts on the land, and management of fleets and materials movement. Okay, this is where our company and Philippine Flying Labs, this is an area where we usually use our drones. It's for aerial photography, for detailed measurements of areas or volumes. And we use UAVs to prepare orthophoto maps. Orthophoto maps are just, it's a map, but all points on the map are in the right position. It's used to determine land use and environmental conditions, among other things. It's also used for mapping and surveying, and it can generate point clouds for digital height measurements, for topographic surveys. It's used and locations, and it's used for preparing as-built drawings and creation of volume and hydraulic models. This is another area where SRDP and Philippine Flying Labs are getting into. It's for humanitarian work. We are in the process right now of setting up an M600 rotary type drone for medical cargo delivery. For other humanitarian work, it can be used for data collection on housing and displaced populations, drone-based aid delivery and relief operations, and flood risk mapping. Next, please. Okay, this is another interesting use of drones. It can be used for construction management, monitoring of all phases of construction, and the calculation of earthwork volumes. This was taken from a project of ours in Leyte. We did infrastructure inspection of San Juanico Bridge. Next, please, Phoebe. Drones for disaster resilience. This is PFL, Philippine Flying Labs, in cooperation with RAM and SRDP Consulting. We flew the island of Malapascua for the purpose of first coming up with an updated map of the island, and also these maps were used to help local NGOs such as SharkLink monitor sharks. Yes, next. Next, please, Phoebe. Okay, this is an example of some outputs that we did for Malapascua Island. We produced orthophoto, 3D models, and an updated topographic map of the island. This is another project of Philippine Flying Labs. In September 18, after Typhoon Monkok devastated the northern part of Luzon, a lot of crops were destroyed before the harvest season. PFL visited the damaged area and conducted aerial survey in selected areas to assess the damage. This shows you some damaged crops after the typhoon. This is another interesting project of the Philippine Flying Labs, but actually in this case, we didn't use drones. We worked with the UP Resilience Institute. They informed us that they were having problems flying their drones in a very, very mountainous area because they would like to study these areas, with the purpose of looking for hidden faults. If you remember last year, April 22, 2019, a magnitude 6.1 earthquake shook the province of Zambales and Pampanga. And if you may have heard it in the news, they were saying that it was caused by some unknown faults. So they tapped SRDP Consulting and Philippine Flying Labs to help them look for the hidden fault. Okay, so we used a Cessna actually to be able to cover this area because in this case, drones are not enough to be able to cover this. It's very mountainous and it's very difficult to access. So we suggested we use Cessna 172 aircraft. Okay, this is Phoebe showing you the 3D model that we produced. Out of this, the UPRI was able to map using our high-resolution orthophotos. They were able to map a lot of landslides. So they're also using this to study landslides in the area. Next, please. Okay, this is an example of an application for infrastructure inspection. This is, I believe, part of Magapit Bridge in Tuguegarao. And we used drones to inspect the condition of the bridge. And as you can see, many portions of the bridge are already corroded, and we were not the one. We didn't decide what measures should be taken to maintain the bridge. We just gave our findings to the bridge engineers, and they were the ones who came up with the renovation measures for the bridge. So advantages of using drones for inspection would be reduced inspection time. As you can imagine, before bridge inspection was done manually using cranes, or literally the bridge inspector used to walk on catwalks, and this could be very dangerous. So using drones, we were able to reach normally inaccessible portions of the bridge. We were able to provide high-resolution geotag photos and videos, 3D model 3D models were used in engineering analysis, especially for some infrastructure that we inspected, such as slope protection. Um, Another advantage would be risk to inspectors were reduced. Traffic disturbance was minimized because we were just closing one lane rather than two lanes when we were conducting bridge inspection. And actually, we have a partner from Japan who is using who are using AI to determine structural defects on concrete. So they're using crack detection techniques to AI using AI to determine cracks. Next, please. Okay, this is an example of the 3D model. So the 3D model mainly was used to visualize the infrastructure we are inspecting, but it's also used to quickly locate the geotag photos. Normally, what is really used for inspection would be the geotagged photos, the photos that are high resolution. But the 3D model would be good to is a convenient way to be able to locate those geotag photos. An application is used to do this. Okay, we also use drones to come up with 3D city models. This is an example of a 3D city model. 3D city models are digital models of urban areas that represent terrain surfaces, sites, buildings, vegetations, infrastructure, and landscape elements, as well as related objects belonging to urban areas. This model adds the vertical component to a 2D, normally 2D GIS, and can be used for various applications such as urban planning, architecture, emergency, so many applications for 3D model. This is another application of the outputs coming from our high resolution aerial photography. We were involved in a project with the World Bank in Indonesia, where we took high resolution photos and multispectral photos of the houses there. The city is called Padang. It's about 80 square kilometers, and we captured high resolution photos from the air, and also high resolution 360-degree photos on the ground. There's another application is for quarantine implementation. This was not done by us, but partner Flying Lab. This photo on the right came from Peru Flying Labs, and they were monitoring quarantine compliance in Peru. So they used AI to quickly count the roads, and also quickly count or not really count exactly the people, because it's very difficult to really count the people. But then they used high resolution photos and AI to count umbrellas. Actually, they counted umbrellas, and in order to determine the efficacy of the quarantine measures taken by their government. Next, please. Okay, that's it for me. Thank you very much.
Okay, so partner's not here yet, so let me. Oh, here, sorry. Okay, that's about it for the talk. Thank you so much, Engineer Phoebe Cartilla and Engineer Joel Cruz. Now we're heading to the Q&A portion of the program. Again, for the audience, if you have any questions, simply comment on the live stream your full name slash your question slash your full name slash your school slash your question.
All right, so on to the first question. We have Ken from University of the Philippines, Diliman. Do you foresee PFL doing in-house innovation and modifications on drone use?
Okay, I'll answer that as technical director for Philippine Flying Labs. Actually, right now we don't have a project like that. What we're using are technologies developed elsewhere. Like for a major project of ours in the coming months would be medical cargo delivery, medical cargo delivery using drones. That was developed by a Swiss company, a Swiss group, and we just purchased their medical cargo attachment. Right now, we're just in Philippine Flying Labs. We're just looking at solutions that are already out there, readily available. We're not at the moment. I wouldn't say we're capable of developing or modifying our own drones. So we're just right now we're using ready-made solutions.
Okay, next question from Jeff Betos from Maksay. In the event it may or may not or actually did occur, what happens when your UAVs suddenly stop working on the field?
Okay. For the well, what we do is we don't fly. We don't fly if there's something wrong with the UAV. But we do take a lot of precautions. We have a checklist our procedures when we're doing mission planning, when we are preparing our drone, when we are operating our drone. So with those and in order to before we take off conduct our drone missions, if there's something wrong with the drone, we don't continue with simply we just don't fly. Are you saying is your question asking whether it stops in midair and then falls? So we try not to reach that point by preparing well for the mission.
Thank you, sir. Another question from Plaridel Lacson from KSHS. Due to their technology, UAVs are expensive and are thus difficult to acquire. Do you think UAVs should be more accessible for public use?
I think the more a lot of people can benefit from the use of drones. We are engineers. Mostly, we are involved in mapping or preparing GIS data coming from the drones, by using drones. I think, yeah, but there are other applications as well. As I said, there are applications for cargo delivery, especially here in the Philippines, where we're an archipelago, and there are many islands, and there are many areas that are underserved. So we would benefit a lot, I think. But I would be frank. I think I would be frank in saying that we are still at the beginning, at the early stage, especially here in the Philippines. We don't. In fact, the medical cargo delivery project that we have at Flying Labs, we're just targeting maybe 5 kilometers or so. So we're really thinking about it. But I think the more people applying drones for different applications would be very good. By the way, okay, regarding the question about expensive.
I'm sorry.
I just want to go back. There was some point. There was a question about the cost of drones. I think the cost of drones, over the years, in fact, we have experience here. Over the years, we noticed that the drone prices are going down. The more prevalent it is, the more prices will go down. During the start of our drone operations, we used to pay more than 1 million for our drones, but now prices are going down.
Okay, so sorry.
Yeah, next question.
Next question. Carl from Ateneo asks, I have friends who tried to work on the concept of using drones for quarantine surveillance. How feasible do you think that model is in the Philippines? And what steps do you think one should take, or the requirements one should take into account in implementing such a project?
We have not done that yet, but maybe we could learn something from our friends from Peru, Flying Labs, the example that we showed you earlier. They were able to more or less assess the effectiveness of their quarantine measures by doing by being able to identify where people are converging. They did things. Basically, they did two types of analysis from their drone photography. They counted cars and they counted umbrellas. So they counted cars on the road and they counted cars on the in parking areas. And with this, they were able to more or less judge. We were not involved in that. We just learned of this from our friends from Peru, Flying Labs. But I think they were able to at least help monitor compliance to their quarantine, to the quarantine implemented there.
All right, thank you, sir. Another question from Samuel Lim from UPD. Have you ever used publicly accessible GIS data in generating maps of places? Does your company have publicly available data, or does it ever plan to offer?
We use a lot of publicly available data, such as OSM. They're free to the public. Unfortunately, we're a private. SRDP is a private company, and we develop map data and also GIS data for our clients. Usually, they own the data, so we cannot just freely distribute them. Probably when we get requests, like because we do get requests from people who see some of the data that we are preparing, we just direct them to our client and ask permission from them.
Okay, next question. Mikoy Torres from MHS asks, how do you think AI, Internet of Things, or 3D printing can help further the use of drone technology?
Okay, I'm not an expert in all of those technologies, but at least I could say that for 3D printing, a lot of the components of the drone equipment that we are using, we have noticed our suppliers are using 3D printing. So they're using 3D printers to come up with special housing for our drone cargo. Perhaps in the following months, once we are able to operationalize our drone cargo, we could share more. But some of the equipment the attachments that we use for the drone cargo delivery are our 3D printed. AI, I mentioned one application where our technology partner used AI to determine, to identify cracks, fractures in concrete and well, mostly concrete, not really on not on steel structures yet, because I've only seen AI applied to detecting cracks on concrete piers on bridges. But in order for our technology partner to do this, they require high resolution photos to be taken of those structures. So that's an application of AI that I could think of.
All right, another question from Jan Coley from LPE. Can you describe one of your best experiences using drones?
Okay, we have a lot. I think for me, flying, we had a project in Tanzania, and it was where Mount Kilimanjaro, the highest mountain in Africa, actually. That was a very nice experience for me, being able to fly our drones for work and being able to see different locations, a scene like that, like Mount Kilimanjaro. So that was, I would say, a good experience for me. I think another very nice experience for myself was when we were able to fly our drones in the Solomon Islands. It's quite a unique place to be able to bring our. We were able to go there because of our drone mapping expertise. So we worked in the Solomon Islands. Well, our work with drones actually enabled us to go to several places that are really interesting, like the Solomon Islands. Last year we were in Zambia. Actually, we were in Zambia, and that was also a very good experience for us. Just seeing. Maybe I could share. I could share a link of a link to the. If you go to the website of SRDP, you could see some of the places where we brought our drones for different purposes, like bridge inspection and mainly mapping. You would one of the places that I really remember. I really remember also was seeing the faces of the children watching us fly our drones. Children from the villages in one very remote place in Zambia. So try to. It maybe it's an advertisement, but try to have a look at our website. We've got some pretty nice photos and videos there of our experiences using drones.
Wow, okay. Next question is from Eugenie Villar from DLSU. Has there any been government interest in UAV? Why or why not? How do you think we can change this?
Oh, well, from the agencies we've had the chance to work with, like the DPWH, we were involved in a 3-year project inspecting bridges and slope protection areas. Slope protection works for the. It was a JICA project, and our partner was the DPWH, and JICA hired us to do the drone inspection. Definitely, I think DPWH, to say at least DPWH, I think they're very much interested in the use of drones, and I think they are already using drones in their work in monitoring their projects and other things. We would like to see them apply drones to inspecting more bridges. So we did several pilots for them, and I hope they would be continuing on with that.
Another question raised by Simon Flores from DCSU. Can you briefly tell us about the mapping process of an area like a mountain? If they vary in requirements or specifications, what are the usual set of specifications the client establishes? How long does it take to generate the map?
Okay. All right. The first thing we ask from our client would be to give us, if preferably, a KML of their mapping area. Like for example, the project we showed you earlier, the project we did for um, for the UP Resilience Institute, UPRI. They showed us a very mountainous area, so we advised them. We don't think that drones would be appropriate for this application. So we suggested to use our aerial camera mounted on a Cessna 172 airplane. The basically the difference only of using aircraft, and for us, at least for us, um, the main difference is that, of course, the camera, but also the platform. So in that case, drones are not enough, so we used aircraft. Okay, so the mapping process, we have a slide for this. So first, we identify the area that we have to map, and then we choose what appropriate equipment to be used for that. If there's enough landing space, then we could use a fixed wing type of drone. If it's very inaccessible, we use aircraft. If manned aircraft. If the space is too tight, we have probably a solution. The solution would be vertical takeoff and landing, so a rotary type of drone. And sometimes we combine the two. We don't normally, for me personally, I don't believe so much in the use of VTOL. I'm more conservative because these type of drones are much more mechanically complex, and with more complexity, more problems could occur. So I'd rather, if it's a tight area, we just use rotary drone, or if there's enough landing space, we use fixed wing drone. Okay, after taking aerial photography, after taking the photos, we then depending on the client, I think our GE would be able to better explain this. We establish ground controls, and then together with the aerial photographs, we'll plug them into software such as Pix4D, or we also use an Israeli-made software called Photomesh, and depending on the client, we choose from one of those two. We use Photomesh when our client, especially, would like to do engineering analysis. I think this is one thing that special that we are doing. We also emphasize, we also make a lot of use of 3D models, because these 3D models help not only visualize the target area for our clients, but you would also be able to do quick engineering analysis on them, like volume cut and fill, or do profile analysis, or flood inundation analysis. This is another whole new topic, but so in other words, we use different types of software, and yeah, I think basically that's the whole process of mapping.
Okay. Next question from Ken from UPB. The question is, a lot of people say that cartography is dying, if not a very stagnant field. How do you think drones and the GIS data help in reinvigorating the field?
Okay, I'll let Phoebe answer this. Phoebe, she's our geodetic engineer.
Yes, so cartography is basically making maps. So since drones has entered the economy, It has helped people appreciate maps more. This is because our maps right now have more colors on them. Unlike before, like way back, you would only see like white paper and black lines. But now, with the help of drones as well as GIS data, we were able to make maps that are more understandable to the general public. So I think because of that, people will be more interested in cartography, hopefully.
All right. So we have another question from David from Diliman. How have you heard of instances when UAVs or GIS were used for ethnography in your company of the Philippines or anywhere in the world?
Ethnography, sorry. I. What do you mean by ethnography? I see. All right.
All right. So
I think that's a little bit beyond my expertise.
all right.
For that ethnography, just a definition.
Actually,
or
at SRDP, we have
about
different
cultures.
cultures. Okay.
Cultures and individual people.
I see. All right. We're basically an engineering company. I'm a civil engineer. We have Phoebe here, who's a geodetic engineer, but we also have other fields as well. We have people from forestry background, environment, because we're a GIS company. I mean, we do a lot of consulting. So I'm sorry, ethnography is not that part of our expertise.
Next question from James John Patricio from JPSME-PUPAC. How long do these drones stay in the air, and how can we maximize this time to capture as much information as possible?
Yeah, okay. How long? Typically, okay, for example, our EVX rated time for that is about manufacturer duration. Manufacturer's specified duration for that is, I think, about 90 minutes. But we don't, for safety reasons, we don't plan missions for 90 minutes. Normally, it's around 30 minutes. We just use 30 minutes. Now, for maximizing, actually, a lot of the mission planning software, or all the mission planning software that we use already maximizes. We just maximizes the battery time for the drone, because mainly it's not fully automatic, but basically we just specify the area that we would like to map, but it's subject to a lot of things once you're out in the field. Like, for example, how much wind resistance our drone will be operating. But but in the mission planning stage, a lot of the software, we would expect the software that we are that come with our drones, we already expect it to have that we would already expect that the battery of the endurance of the drone would already been maximized for the area that we will be mapping. How do I put this? But so in the mission planning stage, we already everything is already maximized for considering the specs of the drone. But then, as I said, even with that, our SOP in our company and at PFL, we don't fly our drones up to maximum. We normally we just fly up to 50% of the uh, uh, capacity of or endurance of the drone we are using. It's better to just refly several times rather than cover as much area that uh, with, with each mission. It's safer to do it that way.
All right, so we have another question from Olivia Cabello from JPSME-PUPAC. Can you elaborate about how drones can detect objects and or buildings to be encoded to a digital platform?
Okay, it's not really the drones itself, at least the drones that we are using. It's not really the drones themselves that are doing the detecting. All our drones do would be capture imagery. The detecting will be done afterwards. Like for example, if we want um, to detect how many vehicles are on the roads, or how many people are out there, or how many sheep or horses would be in the area of interest or in our mapping area. That would be done later on. It's not the drone. If you want, I could share with you one of the more popular AI detection software that we are aware of is Pictera. So it's very easy to use actually. You just have to train the software on what you are trying to. It takes some skill though. You have to practice several times, but basically the process there: take drone photography, high resolution, as much resolution as you can get, and then feed it to upload your imagery to the software, and then train the software to detect what you're looking for. I hope that answers your question.
Next question from Alan Kenzo Beracio from MESS, Batangas State University. How efficient is the current use of drones on aid and relief?
Aid and relief. Okay. We at Philippine Flying Labs, we would like to apply drones for humanitarian purposes, and one of the things that we'd like to be able to do is medical cargo delivery, in particular vaccines or test samples. In the next few months, we will be able to share more. We plan to use. We are actually right now, we're still in the planning stage. We are partnering with some groups, and we are identifying where we could pilot our medical cargo delivery. For Philippine Flying Labs, still quite a new organization. We're just 2 years old, and one thing I think the areas where we could help in terms of humanitarian operations is, one is mapping areas, and then the other one is being able to use being able to use drones to deliver medical cargo, such as vaccines or test samples. And we are still in the early stage for this. We'll be able to share more, I think, later on. Right now, for us, that's our immediate. Those are our immediate targets and what we have been doing so far.
Jacob Andrew from Batangas State University asks, what are the challenges you experience using the drones?
Okay. Well, at, um, in the first few years of our drone operations, one of the challenges was complying with regulations. Because when we started operating drones back in 2013, around 2013, drone regulations were not yet in place at that time, and there were a lot of bad publicity in the use of drones. And so we, those are that's one of the challenges. Actually, we were the first company that was given the permit to operate drones commercially, but it took us about almost 2 years to achieve that. So those are the challenges. But now I think we have a pretty good procedure of getting the permits now from government. Basically, you get permits from the military and also civil aviation. Basically, that's already in place now, so it's more smooth now. Challenges, well, I think the biggest, the main challenge was is compliance.
Okay, a reminder for our audience. The evaluation forms are not yet up. Please wait until the end of the program. There will be 20 more minutes until the cutoff of questions. The next question from Janko Lee from LPE. Did you ever have mapping projects with structures or earth features that are underwater or in the sea? What are the challenges in comparison with terrestrial GIS mapping?
Mainly, no, we haven't done any a project specifically just targeting water covered areas, because our software, the limitation of our software, the software that we are using, is that it can only measure areas over land, not water covered areas. In the process of coming up with, for example, coming up with an orthophoto map, one of the first things that is done by the software is matching the photos with each other using computer vision. And if it's over water, it's a very challenging to be able to match photos. So we don't have experience mapping over water. Phoebe, you want to add to this?
Yes, like as Rachel said, we don't have any experience on this, but drones can also be used to inspect or track the health of seagrass and corals. So if you're interested in that, you can look it up. It's like Karen Sir from She Maps. She's been using this for the coral reefs.
Yeah, actually, we had a visitor from Australia. They are using drones to monitor or count sea cucumbers. That's in Australia. So from what she shared with us, what they did was they took high resolution photos of the near shore areas of Australia, and they were able to come up with orthophoto maps there, and then they used AI to be able to count the the sea cucumbers. But us personally, we haven't done a similar project.
Another question from Max Luna from PES. Can you tell us about software that you use for the mapping, websites you use for publicly accessible data?
Okay, the software we use, I briefly mentioned this earlier. The software we use for processing the data, mainly we use Pix4D, and if our client requires more 3D modeling, we use a software called PhotoMesh. Basically, what else do we use, Phoebe? Sorry. Basically, we use a Pix4D PhotoMesh for processing the data. And then we use other software to analyze our outputs. Yeah, that's I think that's all we. In our, I'd like to only talk about our experience, what we have been using. So we are using Pix4D, and for analysis we use ArcGIS, QGIS, Global Mapper. What else? What else? What else, Phoebe? Can you think of? Nakamute ka, Phoebe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even CAD, sir, we still use
Yeah. We use Civil 3D, the different flavors of AutoCAD.
Next question from Carlo Lu from TIP Manila. What do you think are the things that hinder and limit the current drone technological capabilities?
Right now, I think the biggest limit right now is our batteries. I hope we would see better batteries in use for drones, so that we can have a higher endurance for the drones. So I think that's basically the main hindrance.
Another question from Eugene Ante from Batangas State University. What features do you wish to see on the drones in the future?
Okay. Phoebe? Ikaw naman.
Yeah, for us, since for SRDP we're an engineering company, and for PFL we aim to help our locals. This would be like maybe more on the cargo capabilities of the drone. Most of our drones, the big ones, have like a maximum payload at 5 kilos. That's already the big one. So maybe if we can explore more on those, maybe we can even use, if we can develop the smaller drones that can have larger payloads, maybe that would be very helpful, especially for PFL and the cargo research.
Well, I have one. I'd like to see more safety features embedded into incorporated into commercially available drones. I'm especially, for example, when we're doing close-up inspection, we'd like to see more sensors. We are already starting to see that. We have already been seeing that in DJI drones. They've been adding sensors in the front, back. I think the top from the top also. So I'd like to see some more obstacle avoidance features in drones, especially when this is especially useful when we are doing close-up infrastructure inspection. Because sometimes we have to fly under the bridge to be able to inspect the bottom of the bridge. Those are areas that are not usually accessible to our inspectors. So I'd like to see some more intelligent safety features such as obstacle avoidance for drones.
So as cameras, sir, that can look up.
That can look up. Well, more
very
more
limited.
commercially available cameras that can look up. So far, to inspect the undersides of infrastructure, we are using a parrot. What do you call that? Parrot.
Anafi, sir.
Anafi. It's the only one of the few drones out there that can really look up. If you notice, many of the drones, like the DJIs, they look down or sideways, or probably tilt up about 30 degrees, but not really look up. For engineering inspectors, I think that would be very nice to have more commercially available drones looking up.
Next question from Mark from UPD. Is there any law governing and limiting the use of drones in the Philippines?
Yes, definitely. There's commercial flying and commercial operation of drones and recreational flying of drones, recreational use of drones. If you are for recreational, there are some limitations also, like you shouldn't fly over people. You don't go over 400 feet, and things like that. There's I would suggest go to the CAAP website and they have a pretty nice video showing what you can and you cannot do for recreation. Now, if you are doing drone, if you're using drones for commercial purposes like us, there are basically 3 permits that you have to be certified, and there are three certifications that you have to get. First is the certification for the person operating the drone. And then your drones have to be registered and certified by the Civil Aviation Authority. They have some guidelines for that. Like, for example, the registration number should be this big, and it should be placed in the certain parts, certain position in the drone. And the third one would be the certification for the company or organization operating the drones. So those are the 3 certifications that you should have first. Now, after that, for every project that you have to get basically two permits. One, if you're going to take photos, you have to get a J2 clearance. That's issued by the military. They would have to basically they require at least, okay, somebody does this for our company, but basically I think you need to show your registrations, like, for example, your company registration, person operate the drone pilot certification, and also the drone certificate, the certification for the drones themselves. and you would need to show either an NBI clearance or a police clearance. I'm glad they added police clearance, because before they just accepted NBI clearance. And a person like me, my name is Joel Cruz. There are a lot of Joel Cruz out there, so I have a problem sometimes getting my NBI clearance. But anyway, those are the two permits that you have to go through military clearance first. After you get the J2 clearance, you then go to CAAP and then file for a flight permit. The flight permit, you would have to show them first your J2 and then your other certifications as well. They also ask for your contract, also a copy of your contract, I think. No, military asks for the contract.
Sir, and also just a fun fact for the registration of drones. Actually, SRDP holds the very first drone that has been registered. So it has a RPU-001 Alpha unit.
Yes. We got also the RPU-002 Alpha. So sometimes when people see, oh, that's your drone registration, wow, that's nice, because that's the very we got 001 Alpha and 002 Alpha. Actually, as a drone pilot, I was the second one that was certified. The first one is already a pilot who just who converted his license to who added drone license to his credentials. So, pag piloto ka, you can convert your you can easily apply for a drone pilot license also. But when I applied for a drone pilot license in 2015, I had to go through. At that time, they didn't have any other test just for drones, so they gave me the test for private pilot license. Yeah, so it's a lucky thing that I went through some ground flying. I went to flying school before. I went through some ground schooling. I tried to learn. I was a student pilot before, so it helped me. I had the reviewers, so I was able to pass the exam. But for the company, it took us more than a year. Yes. Next, please.
Another question from Seyfried Munde from UAP. Comparing other nations using drones, how does the Philippines perform with its own UAV industry and technology?
Okay, UAV industry. I think I would just answer for. I would just like to mention about companies like us. I'm not an expert. I don't know so much about drone manufacturing, but for consulting companies or engineering companies using drones, I think we were one of the pioneers in not really pioneers. We're kind of leading on this because. International companies still tap us. We're a Philippine company, and they still tap us for drone work. We've flown our drones in basically in developing countries in the South Pacific, Solomon Islands, Timor, where else? Tanzania, Uganda, Zambia. So we're proud to say that we were one of the early adapters as a Filipino company. I think compared to other countries, they could have just hired. Why didn't they hire an Indonesian company or a Malaysian company? So I suppose we we Filipinos, we are early adapters, and we were able to adapt drones into our workflow relatively faster than other countries.
Next question from Richard from TIPQC. How accurate are the data from the UAVs provide?
You mean position? I think you're talking about position mapping accuracies. Okay, I'll let Phoebe answer that.
So I think all of the drones have already their built-in GPS, but these are not survey grade. So if our client wants survey grade outputs, that's when we do ground control survey. So we add ground control points in our survey area, and then either do a GPS survey using the survey grade GPS, or total stations. And then we use the outputs of these ground survey to georeference the output of the drones, so that the final orthophoto map that we can give to our clients is in the accuracy that they are looking for.
Another question from Vicky Ray from MSHS. What are important qualities or specifications that you look for in drones?
Okay, I can answer that. Number one is reliability. For us, we'd rather use drones coming from established manufacturers like SenseFly, DJI, Parrot. So number one to us is reliability, and then another factor in our drone selection process is that the purpose of the application. Like for example, if it's mapping, I would still say one of the best is SenseFly. Drones coming from SenseFly. In our in our infrastructure inspection work, we use a combination of DJI drones and Parrot drones. As Phoebe said, we could have asked someone probably to customize a drone for us in order to enable us to look upwards, but we didn't want that kind of solution. So we opted for a Parrot Hanafi. Parrot is another established company in the field of drones. But number one, reliability. That's the factor, the main factor where in our decision making.
Question from Jello from UP Diliman. How do you think drones can address the logistical issues our country is facing, especially given the pandemic?
Okay, logistics. You mean cargo delivery? We believe that there's a high potential for drones to be able to do this, and that is why we invested also we have invested resources in coming up with medical cargo delivery. Our objective is just medical cargo right now, but I think that could be further expanded later on as Actually, medical cargo, I would think, is not as mature as drones made for surveillance or mapping or inspection. We are just seeing. I haven't really seen commercially available, ready-made cargo drone solution yet available easily. So for logistics, I think that there's definitely a big potential because Philippines, we have a lot of mountain areas, and some areas are very difficult to access, and we have a lot of islands. So I think there's a big potential for the use of drones in logistics here in our country. We are still in our initial stages. Hopefully, we will be able to get our drone delivery solution in about a month or two. We already have the equipment to do this, but still, even with that, even if we're going to be successful in implementing medical cargo delivery, we are limited to just about two 2 kilograms, and but I think for safety purposes, we will just limit ourselves to 1 kilogram payload for cargo delivery.
Another question from Mito Curtis from SKM. Aside from your own fields of work with emphasis on surveying and mapping, please elaborate other ways drones and UAVs may be of use for nation development.
Yeah, that's the medical cargo. I think definitely is an application of drones that would be helpful to our nation, considering, as I said, we're an archipelago. Lots of islands, lots of mountains, lots of inaccessible areas. So cargo delivery, I think, would be very helpful.
Question from Danielle Oiboko from PSME-UPSU. How do UAV deliveries as a service business model cope with the rainy season and especially typhoon season here in the Philippines?
Yeah, that's a challenge. We don't know. We don't know that yet. As I said, we are still beginners in terms of cargo delivery. And our solution, the solution that we adopted, as I mentioned, I think, as I mentioned earlier, we purchased our drone cargo solution from a Swiss company, and their solution is not waterproof and nor windproof. We always will have to wait for the ideal weather, so we won't be able to operate in for what we have right now. Probably in the future we will see more weather resistant drones, but right now the solution that we have, it's not rainproof nor windproof.
All right. Brigham Lucero from UPD asks, when flying the drones, do you have to get authorization from an aviation agency from the government like commercial planes? If yes, what are the situations that require you to have one?
Yes, as I mentioned, if you fly drones commercially, you have to get permit from the military and civil aviation. And I'd like to mention to you also that the process of certifying the company to operate the drones commercially, when they certified us, they let us undergo similar watered down version of the process. The process was a watered down version of the process of certifying an airline when we started when we applied for the first drone commercial license here in the Philippines. They treated us as commercial. They treated us as they would they would commercial airline. In fact, when we applied first, went to CAAP, when we applied for our license for the company, what they one of the things that what happened, an interest I'd like to share an interesting experience. They showed us the application of AirAsia for an operator license in the Philippines, and okay, this is what you have to prepare. They just narrowed it down, but they certified, they required us to go through a commercial airline because they treat drones as aircraft. So although smaller, but it's still under their jurisdiction. So the process similar to being for certifying an airline company, but watered down.
Next question from Michael Villar from Mapua. To become a drone pilot, what certificate or licenses do you need?
Yeah, you have to pass two tests, written and practical. Written, the CAAP the CAAP has a set of questions. In the early days, when I applied for drone pilot license, they gave me the test for private pilot license, PPL. But later on, they just concentrated. The written part is later on they just added questions coming from the civil air regulations, more on the regulations. After that, you have to go through a practical test. So a CAAP certified CAAP tester would test your drone skills, like make you perform some maneuvers, like for example, figure 8, etc. You have to go through some practical. You have to demonstrate your ability to operate drones.
Angel Parawan from PSME-UPSU asked, are your team and the UAVs you use able to operate in any congested areas? Is it harder or is it more convenient to use?
Okay, assuming that we get the permit, and we have gotten permits to operate in congested areas before, I would say the challenge there is taking off and landing. So most probably we would be using rotary type of drones for those areas. Yeah, the main challenge there is where you would be taking off and landing. So the drones that we will be using there would be rotary type.
Next question from Homer Ante from MESS Batangas State University. The agriculture industry is vast in our country. Based on your experience, what can you suggest on how we can innovate drones for agriculture?
We really don't have much experience on using drones for agricultural purposes. So I can't really say that I can give good advice on that one.
Another question from Frederick Maderazo from Batangas State University. What limits the Philippines in the manufacturing its own made in the Philippines drone UAV using top-of-the-line technology?
Again, this is an area that's not within my expertise. We don't manufacture drones ourselves. We're mainly using commercially available or ready-made solutions in our work. So sorry, I don't think I can answer that.
Okay, For the last question from Lester Orejas from Mapua University. Is there a possibility that in the near future, drones will also be able to aid in construction to further ensure the safety of workers?
My experience in the use of drones for construction mainly is for infrastructure inspection. But I would say just the fact that we are using drones for infrastructure inspection already kept our inspectors safe. We'll be able, if you use drones, it would be safer for the inspectors for if they use drones. There are many what do you call this? Inaccessible areas for many inaccessible areas that would be safer for drones to inspect rather than people. When we inspected the highest bridge in the Philippines, what bridge is that in Leyte? Phoebe?
The
That was
highest bridge
scary.
is the Agas Bridge.
Agas Bridge. That's a
Southern
very
Leyte.
difficult bridge to inspect for if you're not using special equipment or drones. So I think use of drones. There are a lot of uses. Drones would be a safe way to. Is a good safe tool that could be used to at least inspect infrastructure.
Okay, that's about it for the Q&A, and we thought drones were just fun and games and for aerial aesthetics. Thank you again, Engineer Joel Cruz and Engineer Phoebe Cartilla, for sharing with us about drones and their role in the development of the country.
Now, for the awarding of certificates, may we call on Mr. Ram Piamonte and the NMESC 2020 co-head.
So thank you once again, Engineer Joel Cruz and Engineer Phoebe Cartilla for the talk about drones. So since there are two certificates here, I'll have to read both of them. So let's start. This certificate of appreciation is awarded to Engineer Joel Cruz for his talk on drones and their role for the development of the country during the National Mechanical Engineering Students Convergence 2020, Gear Up, Restarting Innovation with Mechanical Engineering to Drive a Resilient and Renewed Nation on September 4, 2020. And we have one more here. This certificate of appreciation is awarded to Engineer Phoebe Cartilla for her talk on drones and their development and their role in the development of the country during the National Mechanical Engineering Students Convergence 2020 Gear Up, Restarting Innovation with Mechanical Engineering to Drive a Resilient and Renewed Nation on September 24, 2020. So guys, one more thing before answering the eval forms, please stay until the end because we have an important announcement to make. So I have more screen time. All right.
Okay, and that's a wrap for day 4 of the National Mechanical Engineering Students Convergence 2020. We hope you enjoyed and learned a lot from our most esteemed speakers. Stay around for day 5 or drop by in the coming days for a talk. We'll also be announcing the winners of the raffle at the beginning of every show, so don't miss out.
So before you leave, we'll be flashing the details for the evaluation form for the raffle and certificates. In the meantime, we'll be giving the floor to the NMESC co-head Ram Piamonte and the PSME-UPSU President Ken Villanueva for casual talk on today's event. I am Sai Villasis.
And I am Jamie Papa. Thank you, good night, and see you again tomorrow. Ken and Ram, take it away.
Hold on guys, technical difficulties again. Let me just fix this up real fast. Oh no. Ken, you there?
Ayun, we have an announcement for tonight.
Hey guys. So I guess our big announcement is
As
that
you all know, we
say
will be have internet connectivity issues in the coming days. So we're gonna have to change things up a bit.
I wanted to make that announcement. Like, okay. So, guys, ano so basically, we will be moving day 5 and day 6 of NMESC due to the PLDT maintenance. So, our new dates for day 5 will be October 2, and our last day, which will be day 6, that will be on October 3. This will still be at the same time, so day 5 will still start at 8 p.m., and day 6 will still start at, I believe, 6 p.m. So that's all, guys. Ken, do we have an announcement for PSME Cup or?
Um, Other announcements will follow on our Facebook page.
All right, so let's just wait up for the actual Facebook post, and I believe the email form's already open. So, yeah, I believe that's all for now. See you guys next week then.
Right.